When YouTuber Dan Preston bought his crumbling French chateau in 2022, he wasn't just purchasing a restoration project. He was acquiring a building with one of the most extraordinary histories in rural France. Château de Chaumont isn't just another abandoned mansion. It's a place where an opera star built her dream palace, where Coco Chanel's heir lived in luxury, and where decades of secrets turned to ash in a single night. Today, we're diving deep into the incredible true story behind the chateau that made Dan Preston famous. Before we begin, if you like Chateau Wall's video, be sure to like and subscribe. Merch is also available for sale in the description. This is a story that spans from Belle Époque glamour to fashion empire inheritance. From humanitarian shelter to devastating fire. And somehow, it all led to a quiet English gardener becoming the guardian of one of France's most significant historical properties. Chapter 1: The Opera Singer's Dream Palace, 1886 to 1939. The story begins in 1886, during the height of the Belle Époque. Eugénie Bardet was living every artist's dream in Paris. An opera singer from the small village of Mainsat, she had conquered the capital's cultural scene, accumulating both wealth and fame during France's golden age of arts and culture, but success in Paris couldn't erase her rural roots. Eugénie decided to build a monument to her success back home, a grand chateau that would tower over the Creuse countryside like a declaration of triumph. The chateau she commissioned was extraordinary for its time and location. This wasn't just a house, it was a statement. 5 levels high with a distinctive cross-shaped floor plan, built from alternating ashlar stone and red brick, topped with a soaring spire that could be seen for miles. The mansard-style roofs and carved triangular pediments screamed Belle Époque sophistication. Eugénie lived there with her daughter Gilbert, and for decades, Château de Chaumont represented the pinnacle of rural French luxury. Early 20th century postcards show the building in its glory days, a magnificent structure rising above the surrounding trees, every window gleaming, every detail perfect. The chateau featured an elaborate 5-level design with a stone-built basement extending to form elegant terraces. The ground floor was accessible by multiple external staircases, including a dramatic double staircase on the front facade. The masonry alternated between fine ashlar stones and red bricks, creating a striking visual pattern that announced the owner's wealth and sophistication. But Eugénie couldn't have imagined the remarkable transformations her dream palace would undergo in the decades to come. Chapter 2: A Humanitarian Haven, 1939 to 1942. By 1939, France was entering a turbulent chapter in its history, and Gilbert Bardet, Eugénie's daughter, made a decision that would redefine the chateau's purpose. She rented Château de Chaumont to the Œuvre des Secours aux Enfants, OSE, a well-known organization dedicated to providing shelter and care to displaced and vulnerable children. The chateau became one of only 3 OSE homes in the Creuse department. The residence was run by educator Lotte Schwartz, who reimagined the opera singer's palace as a nurturing sanctuary. The basement, once home to wine cellars and servants' quarters, now contained the heating system, kitchen, and storage for daily needs. The grand floors above were converted into dormitories and common areas, according to survivor testimony from Eric Thorne, who arrived at age 10 and stayed from 1939 to 1941. The chateau housed up to 70 children at its peak. The ground floor featured 3 separate dining rooms for different age groups, while the upper floors contained dormitories organized by age and gender. One of the most well-known former residents was Judka Herpstu, later famous as the beloved French comedian Popek. He lived at the chateau from 1940 to 1942, and today a memorial plaque at the entrance to Chaumont Road commemorates his time there. The chateau's role as a child protection home ended in 1942 when circumstances required relocation. The children were moved to new facilities, but Château de Chaumont's legacy as a place of safety, compassion, and humanitarian resilience continues to inspire. Chapter 3: The Coco Chanel Connection, 1967 to 1986. After its years as a children's home, the chateau returned to private use. Gilbert Bardet rented it to summer camps until 1960, when it was rebranded as a holiday center called Le Nid, the Nest. But its most glamorous chapter was still ahead. When Gilbert died in 1967, the the chateau was sold to Jean-François Mironnet and his wife, and the story took an astonishing turn into the world of fashion. Mironnet wasn't just any buyer. He had been the personal valet and trusted confidant of none other than Coco Chanel. His wife had also served in Chanel's household. More than an employee, Mironnet became Chanel's heir, inheriting wealth and prestige from one of the most powerful empires in the world of haute couture. The couple made Château de Chaumont their private home, living there with their son and transforming it into a symbol of fashion, elegance, and luxury. Jean-François Mironnet even operated a jewelry workshop inside the chateau, crafting pieces that were sold in the high-end resort town of Saint-Tropez. The former refuge had become a fashion-forward residence, connecting rural France to the glamour of the Riviera and the legacy of Chanel herself. The Mironnet era brought new life to the chateau, elevating it once again into the spotlight. The structure was beautifully maintained, and its legacy as a place of influence and creativity reached new heights. Chapter 4: The Night Everything Burned, 1986. On the night of February 25 to 26, 1986, Château de Chaumont's grand story nearly ended in tragedy. A fire engulfed the entire structure, changing its destiny forever. Mrs. Mironnet was alone in the building when the fire broke out. In a dramatic act of bravery, she tied her bedsheets together and climbed down from an upper floor to escape the blaze. Though she survived, the chateau did not. The damage was complete. The spire, once the tallest point in the area, was destroyed. The roof collapsed. Internal floors and ornate staircases were reduced to rubble. All the furniture, artwork, and personal history inside were lost. What remained was a hollow shell, stone walls, broken windows, and a profound sense of loss. Yet even in ruin, the chateau's legacy endured. Chapter 5: Decades of Abandonment, 1986 to 2022. For over 36 years, the once grand Château de Chaumont stood as a silent ruin. Nature crept in where people once thrived. Ivy blanketed the walls, trees grew through window frames, and the chateau became a magnet for urban explorers and photographers captivated by beautiful decay. In 2014, the property was purchased at auction by Patrick Serget, a history enthusiast who recognized its cultural importance. Though he didn't restore it himself, he ensured that when it was listed for sale again on Leboncoin, France's version of Craigslist, the ad requested a buyer who would rebuild, not demolish, and that's when a surprising hero entered the story. Dan Preston, Chapter 6: The Gardener's Vision, 2022. Present: Dan Preston, a 33-year-old English gardener and occasional chef, had been featured in YouTube's The Chateau Diaries, where he maintained the grounds of Château de Lalande. He wasn't wealthy. He wasn't a trained architect. But he had something more important: vision, grit, and a deep appreciation for forgotten beauty. When he saw Château de Chaumont, he didn't see a ruin. He saw a resurrection. In 2022, Dan bought the chateau and began documenting his restoration journey on his YouTube channel, Escape to Rural France. With minimal tools and maximum dedication, Dan began clearing out debris, securing walls, and preparing for the long haul. The building that once belonged to opera singers, protected children, and hosted fashion royalty now rests in the hands of a humble gardener, and thousands of fans around the world who tune in each week to watch history being rebuilt. Chapter 7: Why This Story Matters. Château de Chaumont is more than bricks and mortar. It's a living document of the eras it survived, a showcase of artistic vision, humanitarian resilience, and post-war glamour. And now, in the age of social media, its latest chapter is perhaps its most accessible and monetizable yet. Dan's videos not only entertain, but educate and inspire. He's turning heritage into content and storytelling into sustainable support. Unlike the builders and heirs before him, Dan shares each step with the world, turning restoration into a global community effort. He's not just rebuilding a chateau, he's reimagining what historic preservation can look like in the digital age. Chapter 8: The Architecture Tells the Story. The chateau's cross-shaped layout, dramatic spire, and contrasting materials weren't just architectural choices, they were declarations of ambition. The intricate blend of ashlar stone and red brick signaled affluence. The 5-level structure with its basement terraces and double staircases showcased attention to both aesthetics and functionality. Even in ruin, these details whisper of past grandeur and of the potential Dan now works to revive. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Consider buying merch or becoming a member of my channel.